Christine Zika, editor of the Literary Guild, and with us today is a great new debut author, Vanessa Diffenbaugh, who's written a book titled The Language of Flowers. Vanessa, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
The Language of Flowers is such a beautifully written book. It's fleshed out and it's inspiring and uplifting and heartbreaking at the same time, and very impressive debut. Tell us about the novel.
The Language of Flowers is about a young woman named Victoria Jones, and it begins on her 18th birthday when she's emancipating from the foster care system. And she's a young woman that has had a lot of trauma and has a very difficult time communicating and attaching and bonding with anyone in the outside world, but she's learned to communicate through the Victorian language of flowers. A woman who tried to adopt her when she was 10 years old taught her this secret language of flowers. So she goes through her life leaving secret messages for people, and no one ever knows what she's saying, so no one ever responds, until one day she leaves a message for a man who gives her a look that she doesn't like, and she leaves him rhododendron, which means beware. And the next week when he sees her again, he responds with mistletoe, which means I overcome all obstacles. But for me, what this book's really about is learning to love when you haven't been loved as a child.
When I was reading this book, there was such a sense of authenticity and sincerity. And when I read your author bio later, I realized that you are a foster mom.
I was really drawn to this topic mostly because I felt like the media doesn't really do it justice. I feel like there's two common stories that are told. The children that are really off the hook and wild and terrible and burning down buildings and hurting everyone in their sight, or the foster mother that sweeps in and is a perfect superhero and saves the child's life and everyone lives happily ever after. And I think that the true story is that children and adults are imperfect and they're trying to learn how to love each other and create a family, and that it's really hard work and there's a lot of failure and a lot of joy.
It's fabulous that you have the glossary of flower definitions in the back of the book. How did that change your perception of flowers?
Yeah. When I first started writing this book, I believed, like Victoria does in the beginning of the book, that there was only one set of definitions, that every flower in every dictionary had the same definition, and that actually couldn't be farther from the truth. At the time this was popular in the Victorian era, there were hundreds of dictionaries in circulation and they all had different meanings. So Victoria actually goes through her own process of creating a dictionary, and I did the same process when I was writing this book.
I'm always amazed that writers find the time to write. So I was doubly amazed to find that you are a mother of 4 children when you were writing this book.
I had a newborn, a 1-year-old, and then a 15 and a 17-year-old. I think I was just really very disciplined. I got my babies on a nap schedule. They slept from about 12:30 to 2 every day, and that was my writing time. No matter how messy my house was, I slipped into my office and closed the door and would write for an hour and a half, and then if my daughter woke up, I would pull her onto my lap and say, "Want to hear a story about Victoria?" And I would write to her. I would write and tell her about what I was working on.
What's the ultimate message you want readers to take away from this book?
My 2 passions in life are really writing and foster care, and I'm hoping through this book that I've created a character and a story that people will really connect with on an emotional level and perhaps even be inspired to get involved in the foster care system. And I'm starting a nonprofit actually called Camellia Network. Camellia means my destiny is in your hands. And the idea behind the nonprofit is that we're all really interconnected and that these children in the foster care system are really our children. Even if you don't want to be a foster parent, you can find out who's emancipating from foster care in your community and become involved, even if it's only giving $5 towards their school supplies or $10 or buying a computer if you can. But creating networks using social media around every child who's leaving the system so that they have support to achieve their goals.
Vanessa, thank you for joining us today. It was a real pleasure talking to you about your book. And for our members out there, thank you for watching and happy reading.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Diffenbaugh, and you can find my book, The Language of Flowers, at the Literary Guild.